And share my screen. Share my screen first. Sabi ko pala naka-open na Windows. Okay, so and yeah, this presentation originally was presented during the forensics conference in UP Diliman. And in there, they wanted me to talk about how necropsy cases show how the animals lived before they died, how it was. So I presented 3 cases, one of a hawk eagle that died of aspergillosis, and another of course, si Lolong. Siya yung highlight nitong report na to as the gentle giant. And another one of a Philippine brown deer. But right now, I'm just going to show you the case report of Lolong, which is also available in text form in your Canvas classroom, because I will ask you to critique the case report as an assignment for this week. Okay, so let's start. So Lolong was captured after a long search in Agusan, in one of the tributaries of Agusan Marsh. And this is Lolong on an improvised stretcher. Obviously, he's over 21 meters long. This guy, this guy on top of him is the mayor of the town where he was caught. So originally, like if you look at the law, they would have had 3 options for the crocodile. One is to keep it in captivity, which they did. Next is to release it back into the wild. And on the third option, which in the end they did not talk about, was to euthanize the animal because it poses threat to the humans in the area. So the local government decided, apparently after much consideration and consultation daw with the DNR, they decided not to euthanize. Well, they didn't even think about that option. They decided not to release it back into the wild. So they decided to put it in captivity. And the crocodile hunt started because one person went missing in this area, and the suspect was a crocodile. So the crocodile hunt started, and they went out and looked for huge crocodiles. They were just expecting about around 11 feet long crocs. No? And there were crocs like that in the area. But then one day in one of the rivers that flowed out of Agusan Marsh, there was they found a carcass of a horse, actually half a horse, and they followed that river, which led them to Lolong. So they were able to catch Lolong. Lolong's name came from one of the crocodile hunters that died during the course of the capture, si Manong Lolong, he was a part of the team that was responsible for Lolong's capture. And so they named the crocodile after him. So they decided to put it in captivity, and this was the enclosure. It's wide enough, okay, but it wasn't deep enough to put Lolong underwater. And most of the time, the pool was half full, and so the animal was always exposed. There were no hiding places in the area. I know we talked about management already and how important it is for animals to be able to feel secure in where they live. So this is its enclosure. There was a shade up there, but because the trees haven't grown properly yet. So apparently, when we got there was another construction going on beside this enclosure, where they put another pool, a deeper pool. So they were supposed to transfer him there because after recommendations from the Palawan Wildlife Rescue and Research Center. So most days, this is what it looked like with Lolong exposed to the public. The facility charged 20 pesos per head, no, for people to see Lolong on days, special days when he's fully exposed to the public. But other days when the water is high, they would charge only 10 pesos. But after we saw records of, like also after we talked to the people there, we realized that almost every day was special. Meaning, Lolong didn't get the coverage of water. And even in this kind of pool, it's so shallow, he wouldn't be able to float anyway. It's like putting a ship in a swimming pool, so to speak. So he'd end up having to lift himself up. So I think this was February, when they called us, in the morning, they phoned me to ask for if I could be part of a team to open that crocodile because Lolong died in the morning. So we flew into Davao. I think arrived there. We left at 3. Tapos arrived there about 5. Then traveled all the way to Agusan because there weren't any flights nearer, like in Jensen or anywhere like that. And we got there. The mayor had to. This is a photo shoot of the mayor hugging Lolo. Already, dead. So there was a lot of ice around it because they couldn't bring the crocodile to an ice factory. They had ice. This is his pool, by the way. It's Lolong's pool drained out, and then they covered the animal with tarp and put ice. So I got there at 12, had to sit down for an hour-long press conference, and then we started opening. Physical exam first. I know this is like post-opening already. If you can see the what's this? The lines that we cut already. But we couldn't do this prior because of the crowd and because he was so heavy. So I took this photo post necropsy just to see what his teeth look like. So almost all his teeth were eroded. No? You can see the middle portion of like no more enamel. Sometimes the pulp showing. And these are the claws. Notice the salt on it. Naubusan daw ng salt sa Bunawan during that time. So all the claws on all 4 limbs were eroded because he had to carry himself. And this is a typical lesion on the palmar surface, but all of his feet look like that. This is the first time I saw bumblefoot on a reptile. And these are on the plantar surface, meaning the hind feet. When we opened okay, so before we go here, the description prior to the necropsy was that Lolong was bloated. And then it turned out that the bloating was a result of, this is one of his lungs. That, for lack of a better word, it popped, exploded. So it was air that was filling the pleural cavity, and it wasn't the abdominal cavity that was expanded. It was in the pleural. So air leaked out into the pleural cavity. And this is the bruising on the lung. And there were solid masses in the apical portion of the right lung lobe. And a lot of fluid going on. Yan yung fluid. And these are the masses. And opening the trachea there into the secondary bronchus, there was frothy fluid as well. And then we followed that to the tertiary bronchi, and there was still fluid inside. On the left, there was again lung mass. And when we cut it, there were pinhead yellow, sorry, yellow, so there were pinhead yellow discoloration, and if you take it out, pinch that out, it was actually mucus surrounded by fibrous connective tissue. So upon histopath, this is the lung section with abscesses, congestion, and of course the proliferation of fibrous tissue. Abscess, those are the congested areas, and the fibrous tissues. And then this is the parenchyma, showing some sort of fungal hyphae that extended into the alveolar lumen. Yan, ang ganda ng fluorescence. So, may flowers and spores na yung like inside, detail. This is actually towards the tertiary bronchus with the fluid and cheesy exudate. When we were reporting this to the DNR, we were having pizza. Anyway, so and then there were crepitations on the surface of the lung, So when you feel it, it's like very spongy, but then there are hard places in areas. And these were the lumpy areas. And then when we cut it, ito siya, para siyang yema. So it's on cut surface, there were pea-sized nodules containing cottage cheese exudate. So upon histopath, these are what we saw. Areas of congestion, of course, thickened alveolar walls. As a result of alveolar walls usually thicken because there's inflammation. And then edema, like fluid inside, and of course, fibrous tissue proliferation. The heart looked like it was, in Filipino, binugbog siya. So that's the heart with fibrous, with like adhesions on the pericardial wall, itong red na to. And then there's a huge bruise on the other side. Ayan, no? And ayan, attached din siya to. And then of course the bruising. Then of course may chicken fat clot interspersed with dark clot in the right ventricle. The left ventricle is supposed to be thickened anyway. So it's possible that the blood pooled on the right ventricle. So we have this big congestion in the center and edema. You can tell that there's edema because there are huge spaces within the myocardiac myofibrils. So the heart tissue or the muscle, if it's normal, should be compact, but then there are a lot of spaces here. So it indicates where the fluid was. And then there is necrosis of the heart tissue and edema. So yan yung edema, ito yung necrosis. Because the tissue looked glassy already. it should be a muscle. No? And this is the liver, again with a lot of bruising and some and yellowish discoloration, no, on the side, indicated by the red arrow. Inside, the first time, well, I've seen liver myopathy already, no. So this is a picture of a fatty liver, but this was the first time that I've seen a liver look like a lung. And notice how few normal hepatocytes are already. It's just covered in fat cells. So we have hepatic lipidosis and degenerating liver cells. No? So at this point, we have to differentiate between postmortem necrosis, no, and like perimortem or premortem degeneration. So it's really important to distinguish that. In this case, this is considered degeneration before it dying because of the, syempre, may lipidosis tayo. And then you can see hemosiderin-filled cells interspersed in the parenchyma. So the hemosiderin is the discoloration, the brownish discoloration. And usually these appear if there is some sort of toxicity because it's a product of a breakdown, no, of cells. This is the... Oh. And then these are the kidneys. It looked like gelatin. And after this time, I don't know who among you are from Bacolod, but there's a famous dessert there called Black Sambo. And that's what the kidneys reminded me of. So the kidney showed inflammatory cell infiltration. Yun. Daming we call them polymorphonuclear cells. It's actually a lot of neutrophils. And of course, tubular necrosis of the renal tubules. And the necrosis was extensive, hence the gelatin-like kidney. So there's also glomerular necrosis and a lot of hemosiderin. So at the end of the day, we need to provide an actual diagnosis. And because of we kind of rated all the findings in the necropsy and then correlated with it with the findings in histopath, no? And the cause of death was determined to be congestive heart failure with late-stage mycotic pneumonia and multiple organ failure. So you need to correlate that with history as well. And some months before Lolong died, he was observed to have had fungal, like cutaneous fungal infection, which shouldn't happen in an animal that has been properly managed in captivity. So that's why the mycotic pneumonia pointed to underlying management and husbandry issues, related to inappropriate housing and diet. But more than that, out of a whim, we decided let's send off Lolong's organs, at least the liver and the kidney, to undergo a tox exam, tox screening. And we found that there was high levels of mercury in his system. So acceptable level is less than 1 parts per million. He had like 30 plus. In both organs, he had more than the acceptable levels of mercury. So at the end of the day, Lolong was innocent. He was not the one who killed that person because we didn't find any traces of human, meaning, ano ba yun? Damit, wedding rings, or anything that indicated that he ate a person. Nothing. There wasn't even stones in his stomach, which he should have, because they can't, they needed to digest, they need stones to digest their prey because they don't chew, they just swallow whole. The mercury levels in Lolong's body, it indicate exposure prior to captivity. But the bigger issue there is that Lolong got the mercury in the environment. So the extent of mercury poisoning related lesions in the liver and kidney, we can't determine that. But we have an inkling that the lipidosis is related to the mercury poisoning. So Agusan Marsh and the surrounding tributaries are highly contaminated. So among all those three, because I had to give a conclusion for the three cases that I talked about, all of the things that these animals died of, they were all management related. And all of them violated the Wildlife Act and the Animal Welfare Act. Pero may nakakasuhan ba? Wala. Yeah. So that's for the other class. We will continue discussing this in the next class after this. So I'll stop sharing first, and then I'm going to call Donelli.
Doc,
Yes.
Since Lolong is exhibited na sa National Museum, parang nakalagay ba that he was innocent, and then yung all of your conclusions ba nakalagay doon na?
I'm not sure. I haven't visited.
I haven't visited him. Nakakabalik eh.
Yeah, I saw Lolong before they displayed the I saw it, of course, because I always visited before, when Arvin was still there, but I haven't seen the exhibit. I want to maybe bring my kid, but I haven't been.
Nakita ko lang nung pa-display na nung nabuo na nila yung stuffing and everything.
Yeah.
Pero hindi ko pa nakita na nung nandun na, and I wanted sana
I know, right?
Kasi parang the public knows that yun may kinain siyang tao, and then
that's why when I posted that on Facebook, when it was, kasi before we left, I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. And
okay.
Yeah. So like right after when we were opening here, and I'm like, what the heck? Yung pinagalitan pa nga ako ni Dr. Masangkay kasi I was so angry, and I was sobra talaga yung indignation ko. Especially after our report to the protected areas and management board of the locality. And sinabi sa akin, Doc Masangkay told me, empathy is good, but you have to separate yourself from the patient. Kasi all I could say was, kawawa siya. Like, over and over, right? While I read the slides already. I was just trying to confer with Doc Masangkay, and I'm like, Doc, grabe, look at this, grabe, kawawa siya. And he's like, huwag ka masyadong, you need to separate yourself because you're so affected.
Pagbalik din ni Kuya Arvs, sinabi niya din sa amin, grabe, kawawa si Lolong. Gumanon siya sa amin.
Yeah. Yun nga.
And yung pictures ba galing kay Kuya Rainier Manalo?
Yung pictures he was the one taking photos because we were the one in there.
Yeah. Thanks, Doc.
You're welcome. May sinabi si Nathan, parang hindi raw naka-indicate nung bumisita sila. So it's probably not there. Maybe we need to write a letter to the museum to tell them.
They lie.
You're lying. You're sensationalizing. He's such a gentle giant.
They lie.
Alicia says she was able to go to National Museum. Okay. So you sent me the pictures. Okay. Hindi naka-indicate. Pero yung question ko for Nathan and Abby, did they say that he was full of mercury though? Diba?
Wala po doon.
Yun, I think that's a more important thing to tell people, because at the end of the day, these carcasses, they tell us about the environment that they lived in. Yun yung point nung presentation ko. Like any dead animal will tell you how it lived. And so, what lesson do we learn from its dying, di ba? From its death.
I think Doc nila ilalagay because they're protecting yung
what? Right?
Yung kung saan galing, kung saan naging captive si Lolong.
Well, they were, yeah, parang pang-ethics na yung discussion later, no?
Yes,
pero,
yes.
pero ang point ko lang ay, like, when we do it's really, I wanted to share the lessons I learned using this case, because after we finalized writing the report, na I realized there were things that we needed still to do. And there were things that parang it kind of opened my eyes as well to the politics of it all and to the uphill battle. Battle ba yan? Kasi uphill talaga eh. Parang ang dami mong kabangga. No? When we were there, it was a bit scary because we were surrounded by goons with guns. Because they didn't want Lolong's carcass to leave. And the National Museum was there to make sure that the carcass was secure. But at the end, yung curator for herpetology, si Arvin Diasmos, left without anything, without Lolong. So nagkaroon na lang sila ng ex-deal na, okay, we will bury it here, make sure it's secure, because we will give you a replica of the body, ganyan. So they made like three replicas of Lolong. But then before we even left, there was a team from a zoo in Davao that came in to measure the skin. Tapos sila yung naglabas ng replica daw ni Lolong. Tapos tawa ako ng tawa kasi they only measured the skin already. So it wasn't Lolong's actual measurement. When we measured it, it was like 21 feet. And I'm 5 feet tall. Tall. I only went up to his, his head is 5 feet long. That's his head. And so, yun. And a lot of people look at this animal and saw money, I feel. And while people do that, even the government, no? Kasi DNR would evaluate the animals in their care, tapos ikokowa sila. But what they use is the market value of the animal. So they never see the animal as something that is priceless. So as long as we look at an animal and look at it as a commodity, we will never appreciate its being priceless. Yun. Sabi ni Donella, mas mahaba pa yung tail niya. Kesa mas mahaba pa talaga. And like, if you look at your thumb, guys, look at your thumb. That's the measurement of just one of his smaller teeth. Hindi pa yan yung malaking teeth niya. Ganun siya kalaki. And yun, sayang. No, it's a shame kasi Lolong held the record for the largest crocodile in captivity before it was in Australia, no? But we gave it back to Australia because we didn't take care of him properly. Yeah. Sadly, a lot of the animals in captivity in the Philippines, especially in rescue centers, die that way. All of these animals that I presented, all the cases, management-related cases that I presented were from rescue centers. There's a question here. Is there a possibility na meron pa? Yan din yung sinasabi nila. Doc, may possibility po ba na meron pang undiscovered crocs na mas malaki in the wild? Mas malaki kay
Wag na
Lolo.
natin i-discover, Doc.
Actually. So when we were... That's what they say all the time. But then it's so funny, even after the assistant director to the BMB announced that there will be no crocodile hunting here ever again, one of the municipalities still insisted that they will look for the one larger than Lolo. Or isa pang sinasabi nila, sigurado may asawa yan. Hanapin natin yung asawa niya. Kailangan married lahat. Ayun, so hanapin daw yung mate. So yeah, he was really, really big. So I have yet to bring Chip to the museum. Any more questions? Because we have 5 more, a little bit over 5 minutes. Otherwise, the rest of the peeps have to go to the next class. Na-mention mo ba yung age? It's really hard kasi we can only estimate. Ang estimate sa kanya ay 50, but he can be more than 50 years old. And we believe he was stunted pa because his trachea curved up. So it went so trachea, no, then went downwards and then curved back up, nag-right turn pa bago pumunta sa lung. And I haven't seen that before. So ang belief namin ay maliit yung area ni Lolong where he was in the wild, and it's possible that the area wasn't big enough for him. He could grow bigger. Sana nasagot ko yung tanong mo. So, estimate lang yung age. Pero, yun. Marami naman siguro siya na sire na mga iba pang crocs. Pero, yun nga, his case was a case of bioaccumulation. Because it wouldn't have been in captivity, no, that he acquired all those heavy metals. It was from the environment, and for sure the fish that he ate in the area where he lived were also contaminated. Another question, with the mercury contamination in the area, if left alone, tatagal po ba siya ng matagal doon? Possible. Maybe they'd find him dead sa taas ng liver damage. Ang laki ng liver damage niya eh. But then, eto na, huhugot tayo. Unlike the heart, ang liver ay hari ng resilience. So, kasi di ba, ang heart pag na damage mo, tigo ka na eh. Pero ang liver, kakayanin niya. So, guys, pag may nanliligaw sa inyo o pag may nililigawan kayo, sabihin nyo na mamahalin kita ng buong atay ko. Kasi ang liver, di ba, kahit 75% na ng liver ay may sakit, susubukan pa rin niya lumaban. Ang puso, nag-give up agad. So, kayo maniwala sa I love you with all my heart. Mahina yun. That I love you with all my liver. Yan. Kasi nag-give up agad yung heart. So, like for me, sa lahat ng organ sa katawan, idol yung liver. Diba? I mean, a lot of UPLB students can attest to that. Sa galing natin mag-inom. Okay. And we are on record. And I forgot. Anyway, magaling naman talaga tayo mag-inom. Okay. So, yun lang. So, I end the class there. Maybe stop recording. And then we'll continue the discussion later in the 156 class. Wait lang. I'll stop recording first.